Hi, I am Rommys Beltran, and I am here to invite you to join me on a journey that shatters the walls of deception. As the only of 6 original defendants left with charges pressed against me, I share my own perspective, a victim of a corrupt justice system, falsely accused and unjustly pursued. This platform is to speak the unfiltered truth about who I am and the battles that I have fought.
And we're back with the setup. This is part 2. I'm interviewing the lovely Dr. Beltran. So we're going to get straight back into this conversation because this is a really good one, folks. So we were talking about you being targeted by the local government. So how do you know that? Like, what brings you to that conclusion?
So back in 2013, when I started, going into these investigations with the child traffickers of Atlanta, all of a sudden I started getting investigated by the government, the local government, especially the facts. And we never had any claims about nothing going on in the program until that particular time, a few months into talking and fighting, trying to save children from these traffickers and stuff.
So for the people that don't know, what is DFACS?
DFACS is the Department of Children and Families, is the protectors
Okay.
of the children.
And they were the ones investigating you?
Yes. All of a sudden, I started getting claims of investigation.
Okay.
So it comes to my attention. They send an investigator for the state, which usually, when DFACS opens an investigation on you, it's usually your local county DFACS. It's not the state. I get an investigator from the state. So they open an investigation. I cooperated fully with them, give them access to everything they wanted, and they did the investigation all over, which takes weeks a lot of time because they want to interview the parents, they want to interview the children, they want to interview the teachers, they want to interview the dog, they want to interview everybody. So the investigator comes back about a month later and he says, sits in front of me and says, Dr. Beltran, I just want to tell you that I'm going to close this case. I don't find any abuse. I don't find any situations that I should be concerned about. Just want to let you know we're closing the case and with no findings. And I say, okay, thank you. So he says to me, I really like your program, as a matter of fact. I think you have an amazing program and it's doing what it's supposed to do. So I want to congratulate you for that. So the investigator leaves. We don't know nothing about him. About probably a month later or 6 weeks later, I get a call from him. And I call him back. So he left a message. I call him back and I said, don't tell me it's another investigation. And he's like, no, I actually want to talk to you. And I want to talk to you in private and away from everything.
Wow.
So he set up a time and a date. We go and meet with him very, very south of Atlanta, far away. It was a long drive. Mm. We meet at a place, at a restaurant. And when he comes in, he's all covered up. Covered up.
His what do you mean covered up? Like covered up.
It was not COVID. We're talking about back in 2013, 2014. His face, he was like he didn't want to be recognized.
What do you have, like a mask on?
He had glasses and a scarf and a hat and a jacket.
Jesus.
Yes.
So he was very, very very incognito.
Yeah, very incognito.
Okay.
So he comes and he says to me, I want to give you a heads up. I really like your program. But I need to tell you that there's people in my organization who wants to get you out of business and shut you down. And I said to him, why do you say that? Why? What am I doing wrong? They said, that's the problem. You're not doing anything wrong. But they don't like your program because you're making the state look bad. Those are the words he said to me. And he said to me further, make sure that you have everything in order and in line because there's have been several meetings with several governmental agencies talking on a table, on a round table, plotting how to shut you down.
That's crazy.
Exactly. I didn't know what to say at the time. I thought he was messing with me. But then, for a while, I just thought about it, and
Yeah.
that's all he said that day. And then he took off. He
So
just
he didn't
wanted
tell you who
me.
these people were?
So he said to me, "My boss doesn't like you." And he said, "Do you know who my boss is?" And I was like, "No, really." And he says, "My boss." That's when I found out that I was in front of the State Department, the DFAX State Department. And he said, "My boss is the boss and the head organization of the entire DFAX in Georgia. And do you know who the boss of my boss is?" And I said, "No, who is it?" And he says, "The governor."
The governor at that time
The governor at that time here in
of
Georgia.
Georgia.
And then
Wow.
he didn't say in his in words, but he kind of implied that they were working together to try to get AYA out of business or shut it down somehow. So he warned me and said to me, "I want to make sure that you have all your paperwork in order, your licenses, your permits, everything is in order, because they're gonna come to attack you somehow."
So he was actually doing you a favor. He
He
was
was
trying
doing
to
me.
give
He
you. He
said
was
he
giving you a
liked me. And
warning.
yeah,
Yeah.
he told me, I like you. I think you're doing an incredible job, and I think that you have a very, very good program. So that was probably somewhere in 2014, between 13 and 14. I can't remember. Can't put a pin on the date, but that went on.
Why do you think you were targeted by them?
He said in his own words, because I was making the state look bad.
Just because of
Whatever
that?
that means. I don't know what that means, because I didn't ask any question. I think I was in shock when he told me that, because I couldn't understand what was really going on. And I couldn't think about what was I doing wrong? How could they get me? I couldn't see it at the moment. I just couldn't see it.
But are they still pursuing this today?
So what
Because that
happened?
doesn't make sense to me. Like your academy is shut down already, right?
Yes.
So why in the world would they continue this right now if they got what they if that was the reason,
Right.
which was, we want to shut down your program because you're making us look bad. Okay, the program is shut down.
Correct.
Why are you still pursuing this then? So I don't think that was the reason.
So, well, that was like in the very beginning of the problems. And then more problems came along, okay? We come to 2014, one of our accreditations is taken away from us by the state. And supposedly because one of the teachers that we fire, somebody that you fire is not happy with you, went and talked to the accreditation commissioner and then told him a bunch of stuff about us. So they stopped our accreditation, one of our accreditations. We had two other accreditations at the time. So we started to fight that one while we got the other two running. So in 2015, okay, I get a visit from one of the parents of the kids. And we had at the time a little over 100 students in the program, and it was a day program from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. Okay. They were going home every night, and they were home on the weekends.
Okay.
So a parent came by and said to me, "Dr. Beltran, I want to warn you about something that's happening behind your back. They are a small group of parents that are going to this organization called Galeo. Galeo is a nonprofit organization in Georgia who protects, supposedly, illegal aliens." So she told me that these illegal alien parents were going there and they were coaching them and they were plotting along with the government and Telemundo, especially the media, the local media, Telemundo Atlanta, to come into the school with the news and with officers and all the stuff to shut down the school.
So the mainstream media here in Georgia was also
Part of this.
part of the
Yes.
the plot.
So, yes. So at the moment, I thought it was a joke again. And I was like, 2 years have probably passed down since the time that I talked to that person from the government who told me all these things. So it's probably like 2 years later already, okay? And the program continued to develop and go and, different stuff. And I get this parent who sit down there and tell me that. And that was early, probably around April, May of 2015. So on that summer, I took off on vacation with my family for about 2 weeks. I was out. And when I came back, Everything was okay. Typical problems, that went on, this, whatever, uh, stupid stuff that went on in the school with usually staff, the civilian staff, not the military staff. And then I come back to that, and within a week of coming back from that vacation is when we get raided. So there was a fight in the school and between one student and one of the sergeants. And as you know, this school didn't have regular behave kids, but also have very aggressive, physically aggressive juveniles there. And the fight turned out to the point where we had to restrain them. And in the state of Georgia, mechanical restraints are allowed for children and juveniles. And he was restrained. Then some other students attempted to do a riot, which the rest of the staff controlled. Okay, we had to call the local police, and the local police used to be our cooperators and collaborators throughout the years. So much to the point that if one of our students run away from home on the weekend, I will get a call from that officer on the road, on my house. And the officer, I got one of your doctors, one of your students.
Right.
What do you want me to do with them? So we had a very good rapport with Roswell PD. And so at that time, I was not in the building when the fight, went on. And I get a call from my captain, and the captain says, we had this fight, which was common. So I want to make this clear. It was common, students attacking other students attacking the staff. It was a common everyday situation. This was not something that just happened every here and then. No, It was almost daily. So I got this report from him, and he said, we call Roswell PD, but for some reason, this time was different. And I asked him, what do you mean was different? And they say, I don't know. The officers were not collaborating with us, and were asking us questions like if we were the aggressors. And they dispatched the crimes against people's unit, which is very strange. You only dispatch that unit when you actually see a crime against a person.
Right.
So we didn't know what was going on. And I said, well, did you ask any questions? And they said, no, they didn't even let us talk. They just started asking us questions about the fight. And they didn't want to do nothing about the juveniles that were involved in the attacks. We found that very strange. Well, about probably that happened on August 17 of 2015. Not even a week later, on the 22nd or 23rd of August, we get raided. So GVI is involved, Roswell PD, and there comes the news. Telemundo, Atlanta, they're owning the news, okay? And they are all over. And the first thing that comes in the news is this reporter, if we can call her a reporter. She's holding police reports in her hands, and she's saying there are 52 police reports against the school for child abuse. And to me, it's just like playing with people's ignorance, okay? Because everybody knows this is a country of law, okay? If you report one child abuse, okay, you have to move so many agencies around just to investigate that one case.
Right.
If you're standing in front of the news and you're telling the general public that you have 52 reports of child abuse reported to a specific police department like Roswell, that means this department is very negligent, extremely negligent.
Yeah, they don't care.
Exactly. They don't care what's going on there. So in reality, there was one investigation, which was the one that I told you about at the beginning of 2013, and the other 51 reports, and the investigation was closed. The other 51 reports, it was us calling them. Calling them because there were kids bringing drugs in the school, and you understand that it's illegal to keep the drugs, so I have to call the police and turn the drugs into the department.
Right.
Have an officer show up and give them the drugs.
Right.
So we call them because the school got broken. They stole one of our vans. They stole all our videos from the DVRs, from the cameras. They stole several computers and stuff like that. We called several times with fights. We called several times to have an officer inside with us in the school when we saw that there was something going on.
So this is
So
while
it was us calling
you guys
them.
calling the police
No, it
department.
was not the parents calling against us.
Right.
So, but
Okay.
they exaggerated that, and that was Telemundo. They said that big lie
Okay.
to everybody, and you could see that the narrative. That they
Were
were
you able to prove that? Were you able to prove that?
no, because and let me tell you why. Every single time that I tried to speak to the news, they edited what I was saying, and they change it
Wow.
around and make it look like I was being either stupid or I was making fun of people, and I was being the villain. So
Wow.
they had this very well planned. So with the years investigating on what happened here, I decided to first of all, before I move that to
Okay.
that, I decided to within 72 hours they destroyed the school, the news destroyed the school. So I was forced to close because I was only left with 10 students. And those 10 students, we arranged with the teachers to continue the homeschooling, with the parents, remote. And then there was no reason to keep the school open because there were trucks of news all around the school. It was impossible to go to work. It was impossible to keep the parents away from the cameras. So it was a very difficult situation. So I said, you know what? They turned this into a circus. And the only way that the circus stops is you pull the plug. And I just tell everybody, we're pulling the plug. The circus over.
Yeah.
And that's it. And that's what I did.
Okay.
There was, many consequences of the parents. They actually believed the news because the news said that the school wasn't accredited. Okay, and they interviewed me about the accreditation, and they asked me about that one accreditation that was in trouble at the moment. And I said, no, we don't have that. That's right, we don't have that accreditation. But we could work with the other. We have other two accreditation. They cut that off. So if you watch the video, it's no, we don't have an accreditation. And I just told them, I said, they're just taking this to another level. And I thought it was funny. So they cut all that, and then they said, no, we don't have that accreditation. They're taking this to another level. Ha, 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 ha. That's the only thing they put on the news, okay?
Gotcha.
Like, we went to confront her, and this is what she had to say. And then it looks like I was making fun of people. And I was actually, telling them, no, it's nothing to worry about. We have the other accreditations. So some of the parents, they watched the news, were very upset because they portray me like I was
Yeah.
fake. I was just taking people's money, which the program was not an academic program. And I have to say this 10,000 times. It was not an academic program. So
Behavior.
it didn't matter if we were accredited or not.
It's behavior.
It was for behavior modification. The academic program had absolutely no value in this.
Right.
No value because it was not a school that needed to be accredited so the kids could go to college,
Right.
even though they did.
Yeah.
Because we had that as a bonus. It was not part of the program. But they hold on to that because it was the only weapon they had against me and the only weapon they had against the school. So the school divided into two groups. The groups of parents who wanted to be the victims of the circumstances and wanted to ride with the narrative of the news. Those parents lost everything, basically, because they turned against the school. They didn't want to speak with me. We gave them the opportunity to talk to them. A lot of them shut me down, cursed me out. At some point, I even got threatened, from some of them, telling they were going to kill me because you know, I was, what do you call, a thief and all kinds of stuff. Whatever the news wanted to sell, they bought the entire package. And there were other parents who say, wait a minute, hold on, let me listen to what she has to say. And we put those kids in another program. And that program ran from home with the teachers. And those kids are actually, many of them, in college.
Oh, okay.
So those were the successful group, and the other group of parents wanted to be victims and wanted to be this and that. So with time, I in investigation into this, because I investigated this, over and over and over, I found out that Telemundo actually sits on the board of directors of Galileo, And there is a particular attorney who wants to sue me. Until this day, he still wants to sue me civilly. And he has gathered and put together all these people, these alleged victims, okay, put them together, and he's been running them and making sure that, he is getting what he wants to get. So this attorney also is part of the board of directors of Telemundo and the board of directors of Galileo.
Okay.
He's the one orchestrating the whole thing right now. Back then, he was part of it, but he wasn't as confrontational as later, a little bit after the problem. He started going on social media and the news saying, "If you have been in AYA and you have been part of Dr. Beltran's, students call me. There is compensation for you and blah blah blah."
You didn't try to file a lawsuit against the Telemundo for doing those edits?
Yes, I did. I did
what
file a
happened?
lawsuit in 2016.
Okay.
Okay. But in 2016, Georgia governor accepted something called the anti-SLAPP law, which is about 20 states in the United States. The anti-SLAPP law is a law that came from California, of course, where you cannot sue the media. No. If you sue the media, you ended up paying the double of what you're asking for them to pay you.
Mm.
So when I filed the lawsuit, we didn't know this law was approved already and taken into Georgia until after we filed the lawsuit.
So then you should just call them fake news,
That's what we call them, fake news.
like what Trump does.
Yes,
Just call them
that's
fake
it.
news.
And you know what?
And
When
let
Trump,
them lose credibility.
yes, because 2016 Trump wins the election, right? And he becomes the president. And then I started learning about fake
Fake
news.
news.
I had no idea that it
you,
existed.
you were living it.
I was a true testimony of fake
fake news.
news because they
Unbelievable.
destroy me. They destroy my life.
And
They destroy me in every aspect, my marriage.
And they've lost a lot of credibility over the years.
Yes,
So
absolutely. They have
of
lost a
people-
lot. No, because people now know. And we thank President Trump for that.
Yes.
Because he opened our eyes.
He opened their eyes for sure.
He did open our eyes. So and then when I realized that I was being a victim of a fake news, but I had no idea the magnitude of what's going on. No idea who was behind it. What were the interests behind this? I was so confused. In January 29 of 2016, 6 months later after I shut the school, officers knock on my door and they arrest me.
At your house?
Yeah.
For what?
The school was long gone.
Why
you
did they
know?
arrest you?
So they take me, Roswell PD takes me because I was living in Roswell. And they takes me into custody. And when I got there in the jail, I asked them, what's going on? Where am I being arrested? And they said I have about 40-some charges, felonies.
40
Felonies. More charges than Trump right now, more charges than El Chapo.
Oh my God.
More charges that you can even think of.
But why? I think Trump has a lot of charges right now. But why?
No, I think he's
his is up
underdog
there.
right now under me.
But why? What are they hitting you with? Why do you think they hit you with these charges?
So they said they are charges for theft, supposedly, because the school wasn't accredited when I had 3 accreditations. So they completely dismissed the other 2, and they were holding on 1 accreditation. The one they were, and by the way, the week that they rated me, that day, the next day, were coming, the accreditation commissioner were coming to restore our accreditation again. Okay? It was from one day that we missed it.
I mean, whenever I hear of that many different felony charges against one person, it almost feels like it's like hopefully something sticks so we can lock her up.
That's exactly what it
that's-
was. I was overcharged, and I know as a former police officer that you charge somebody excessively with the intention to have something will stick. Yes,
That's outrageous.
Something will stick. So
That's
they charged
outrageous.
me. They give me, I think it was 29 charges for. Let me back up for a minute.
Okay, go ahead.
Because you need to understand this. The people that was coming, the parents that were coming to our program, okay, were coming and signing up the children under a contract. A contract. So the contract will say in every page that they had to sign every aspect of it. And because we were dealing with very aggressive juveniles, okay, some of them were really big. bigger and heavier than our staff. And somebody can actually be hurt by a big student like that because they are young, so they have a lot of strength. So we had the one of our practices was mechanical restraints. So we had implementation of mechanical restraints, and in excessive situations we could do pepper spray, something that everyone having a paper spray in the school was completely trained on how to spray and how to disintoxicate, okay,
Okay.
the person. So nobody else can take that. I'm coming from a police officer background, so I know everything has to be by the book. So I was always making sure that everybody that was utilizing any of these tools was actually trained to do so. So these practices were there. We were actually taking some of these students to the Get Straight program in Fulton County, in the sheriff's office. We have several videos of these student juveniles inside of the jails of Fulton County being in the Get Straight program, where the inmates are yelling at them in their face, telling them to go down, to do this and do that, and stuff like that. It's a program that they had at the time. I don't know if it still is. At the time, they had running. So all this happened, and the parents will come and say now that we were abusing their kids.
Okay.
And they're abusing their kids at what level? Okay? Not because they were handcuffed. Okay, mechanical restraints is allowed in the state of Georgia.
Right.
Okay, on juveniles and children. And you give us permission by writing to do so. So how are we abusing them?
Right.
No, because you pepper spray them. You sign a contract saying that you allowed our sergeants to pepper spray them if necessary. What are we talking about? Right. So all these things, they keep coming back and keep coming back from this situation is just completely taken down because they don't have an argument.
So let me ask you this. So it's also my understanding that there was a judge that was also kind of like in on this plot. Is that correct?
There is.
There is currently.
Yes.
Okay,
so
hold on. Before we get into that, we're gonna take a break.
Okay.
We gotta take a break. Thank you for watching part 2 of The Setup. I'm the Kid Plot, Dr. Beltran. We just had an amazing interview, an amazing discussion. Make sure you guys stay tuned for part 3, where we're going to be discussing her 40-plus felony charges that she's accused of, as well as her life after she bailed out of jail. Stay tuned.